Hello and welcome to the Ogle Corner podcast. I'm Stephen, your host, and with me today is SJ.
Hello.
And Amy.
Hello.
How are you both?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, enjoying the sunshine.
Oh, yeah, always. We also have a very special guest today as well, don't we?
We do.
We do.
And I'm going to give her an introduction. Hopefully I got all this right as well. Our special guest today is somebody we've already had the pleasure of collaborating with at the NDA and has done some work with us. But we're now here on the podcast with her, which is lovely.
Whoop, whoop.
Lucy Painter is the founder and director of nationally renowned recruitment agency, Studio Recruitment. Studio was created to offer candidates and clients with the interior design industry a recruitment solution that has a vision and genuine interest for interiors. In addition to this, Lucy is also the author of In With the Interior Design Crowd.
Mm-hmm. Whoop, whoop. We've got it here.
A book that is genuinely stacked with real-world knowledge
Yeah.
and insight from leading industry experts on how to succeed as an interior designer, whether straight out of university or an industry professional. It is a book that everyone, I think, can
definitely.
learn from.
Yeah.
So welcome, Lucy.
Thank you.
Hi.
Amazing to be here.
Thank you for coming. I'm going to go straight in because
Yeah.
I found this fact and I'd like to know
Okay.
if it's true. Did you actually go to the Brit
I did.
School of Performing Arts?
I did, and Amy Winehouse was in my class.
Was it? That's
We
what
were-
this
We were
was-
wondering,
No
but who did you say earlier?
I was kidding, anyway.
Oh yeah, she was also in the year, but she wasn't in my class. She was in
Yeah.
the music.
Was it as good as they say it is, that?
Better.
Was it?
You literally do have people singing in the canteen. Yeah, it is
Oh my God,
as
that's amazing.
amazing as it says it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible at creating individuals more than anything. It allows you to be yourself, and yeah, I don't think I would be where I am today without it. So yeah, it was amazing.
Would you say it built confidence in people, like people who were there? And
Yeah, it builds your self-worth and it builds you as an individual. It's incredible. And although you go there obviously wanting to become a performer, it does so much more than that. They build individuals,
Yeah.
which I'm grateful for.
so, what did you do after that then?
Oh gosh, it went downhill from there. I think my career history should probably be parked from that point onwards. What did I do after that? Well, you know what? This is one of the reasons I wrote the book, because I can remember leaving there feeling so lost and having no clue what to do and no direction. I didn't know what I needed to do in order to get wherever I wanted to go, or even know where I wanted to go. But I think that feeling of, studying and being in that world,
Yes.
which is very contained, very structured, doing something you love, and then you're on your own.
Yeah.
And when you leave something like that and you start a new chapter in your life, it can be really daunting. And I just didn't want anyone to feel like that. And I think that's where the book came from. And hopefully, even if it gives them a tiny bit of direction, that will help them in their stage. But yes, I didn't have a great few years, in all honesty. And I think that is because I just made wrong decisions and I didn't really know where to look or what to do. So, yeah.
What made you set up your own business then? Was it just the fact that you wanted to be in control, or?
It was interesting. I was working for a really great company, actually, and we got taken over by one of the dragons on Dragon's Den. And it was awful. They put 3 stories of people onto one floor. They told us we had to borrow stationery. It all became pretty toxic. And within a month, I sort of said to one of my clients, if I left, would you come with me? And it was 2009 in the recession. And I was really, I wasn't sure what to do. So I actually sat and wrote down everything I could ever want to do in my life on a piece of paper, from climbing Kilimanjaro to seeing more of my family or eating more popcorn on a daily basis or anything like that, everything I could ever think of. And then I put it in a drawer for 3 days. And when I came to look at it again, I realised I'd written to set my own business up actually 3 times in different forms, one or another. And actually I was like, this is really resonating with me. So that's why I sort of pursued it, really.
It's very difficult, isn't it, though, taking that step, because I did it myself.
Yeah.
leaving an established company.
It's a big jump, isn't it?
Environment, and then going, okay, it's me now, and doing that. I'm always intrigued what kind of drives people in that sense.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting technique though, of writing it all down.
Yeah, putting it
in a drawer and then coming back to it and reflecting on it.
Yeah.
We should do that next week.
I'm doing it right now.
Mentally.
You can hear that in the book. Though.
Do you think?
Yeah, in the different chapters and the way that you approach everything, and the different sort of career paths that can. And I think I totally get that when you leave university and you finish your studies, that you can feel quite isolated and lost.
I think this would have been a great help to all of us.
I know.
Yeah. I mean,
I think we've all said that, haven't we? That wow.
No matter what
that
stage in life you're at, because like you say, you could be in the industry and want to start up, your own business. Yeah. And even for somebody that's been in the industry for 20 years, that's still a big jump.
Huge. In fact, I think the longer you leave to setting up your business, the harder it is, because ultimately the more responsibilities you have. You may feel like, well, actually, I've got a huge mortgage, I can't take the risk of setting up.
Sure.
Or you might not have the financial stability, or you might have a young family, or whatever it is. It generally is harder the older you get, I think, or it feels more of a risk.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It was good fun when I did it, but then I took a step back. It's quite exhausting when you're actually doing it for yourself, particularly interior design, because you wear all the hats. You go through your book and all the different kind of aspects of what you can do in interior design. If you're running your own business, you're wearing all of those hats, and actually that is
and
quite...
chasing money at the same time.
Which is ultimately...
and finding new clients.
Takes all the fun out of it, to some degree. But what made you write the book? I know we've kind of touched on it, but kind of...
Well, when I set up Studio, I wanted to ensure that people, if we couldn't help them, we could give them a direction. So I used to send them out a booklet which used to have the top 100 companies in it and a bit of information on CVs and portfolios, just general information. And we used to get such good feedback from it. And, some people may say, well, why would you give away companies? And, as a recruiter, why are you sort of losing out on business as such? Why are you letting them apply directly? But ultimately, there's enough business for everybody. And the main goal for me is for people to find a job, whether it's through myself or directly. And it just felt like there wasn't anything out there. People didn't know where to go to find companies. So, and that's actually not really very fun, looking for a job. And it's a full-time job. So actually the feedback I got from the booklet, I was like, actually, I really want to put all this information into one place. And designers are such incredible people. You are all so talented. I just really wanted to sort of shout about it and say, look, this is what these guys say, and this is their story. And I find people fascinating. I think that's why I do the job I do, but especially people who've got talent for interiors, which affect all areas of our life and affects how you feel. So hopefully they've offered that to designers as well. So
I mean, I agree. I think it's like Amy said earlier. It's such a good book, and it's such a good book no matter where you are. Because I've recommended it to my students, just in terms of thinking about their development while they're still a student, not just about their career, like kind of career progression, but it is about the aspects you break down. The one thing I picked up on the book was you talked about hand drawing.
Yes, same.
Because I'm a passionate person that still thinks there's massive value in being able to draw by hand. Do you think your clients are they still look for that, or because we're obviously in a very digital age?
It's a really, really interesting question, because from a recruitment point of view, we obviously get asked for certain skill sets, and so you see a trend in what's becoming in demand as such. When it comes to hand sketching, obviously that used to be how people would present concepts to their clients. And obviously nowadays it tends to be more companies are trying to do cinema 4D visuals or 3D Max visuals to their clients. However, when the market is busy and those candidates are not available to be able to visualize in that, they will or there is a visualizer who perhaps isn't to the level they're looking for. They will all still have a freehand sketcher, and they'll still take that person over a visualizer. But you'll always find in a studio, there'll always still be someone, the lead designer is the one who's sketching.
Yeah.
You know, regardless, because if you're on site and you need to explain how something
That's
goes
it.
together,
Yeah.
you're still going to
Exactly,
have to
It's a
sketch it
skill.
out.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, when people think about freehand sketching, we've got to realise there's such a huge spectrum of it. You know, there are people who do these beautiful 3D sketches, but it's still important to be able to sketch out a joinery detail from a technical aspect. And so it goes across the whole spectrum, but it is so integral. And even today, everyone needs to have it in their portfolio, and that's what people look for.
Yeah.
Every client will want to see it.
That's great to hear, isn't
Yeah,
it?
all the students listening,
Yeah.
that's what we
Yeah,
keep
I
banging
mean,
on about.
we do bang on about it a lot, don't
Yeah.
we? An
We
awful
have to.
lot.
Yeah,
Not-
and sometimes I
But
think they
it
think
is
we're lying.
important.
I cannot tell you how important it is.
Yeah,
because
no, I think it's important to hear it from someone
Yeah.
who's working with industry
Yeah,
professionals.
exactly.
That actually is really important. It's
Yeah.
not just us making your life difficult.
It's,
No.
it's value. I see it because it's
Yeah.
ultimately your personality as a designer comes out in that
Yes.
aspect, because everybody draws differently and it's their own creative response, isn't it? I have another question about that in terms of building a portfolio, and I get asked this quite a bit by students when I'm teaching it, is when you're putting together a portfolio, and in your book you talk about obviously having nice images, obviously if you've completed your project, how do you, what's the response to using stock images in building a portfolio? So using existing kind of images that are out there available to you when because obviously you're lacking on real world projects. Do you think that's something that someone should do, or?
If it's part of a mood board or a concept that it's part of your project, then I think, yes, it's contributing to your concept design. But I don't think you should put it in just for sake to build up your portfolio, because ultimately any junior or graduate designer, a client isn't looking for a finished designer. They're not looking for someone who can go in and run a project. They're looking for key skills that they can build upon. And that's what they want to see. They want to see your true raw ability in sketching, visualizing, technical drawings, but also your understanding of materiality and a color palette, you know, your eye. So I think it's very easy to kind of see these stock images, but actually you don't actually need to put one in at all. I wouldn't recommend it, because it is your natural ability as a designer. They're seeing what they can shape and mold and your willingness to learn and where you're at to now.
I think that's so interesting because so many, I mean, from my experience of my students, they rush to that finished aspect of like everybody wants that, or they think everybody wants
polished
to see
visual.
But
that.
they don't.
No.
This is it. I think it's like it's the phases, isn't it? The things behind actually the project that shows you as a designer,
Process, yeah.
not the end product.
I had one residential client who fairly recently said, when I said, well, what are you looking for? She said, I don't really mind what projects they've worked on or project exposure they've had. I just want a beautifully presented portfolio, because I need this person to put presentations together for me. So I need to know they can present their work beautifully. But also there's a lot of people forget about the description that goes alongside your portfolio. And some people, it's full of spelling mistakes, or they haven't explained it well enough. And again, you know, when you're presenting to a client or you're dealing with suppliers or contractors, how you articulate what you're looking for is really important. So there's so many aspects to a portfolio. But then we'll have a client who specialises in yacht interiors. She was very big on materiality. She doesn't matter whether somebody's working hospitality or retail or residential, but she needed to see someone had an eye for it and an understanding of that colour palette as well. So that was what was really key for her. But I think overall, it's about your skill sets and you as a designer, and not about finished photos, certainly not at a junior level anyway.
If she's still looking for somebody, I mean, I'm available for you. Definitely available for that. That's one of the
Fantastic.
That's one of the dream jobs for me. One day. SJ, do you have any other questions?
No, I think you've covered the questions.
That good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was just really impressed with the book, and I think it shows the value and what you said at the beginning about the fact that students feel isolated and you don't know where to go. That is just a key thing for me, and it's something, you know, that we try to work on as a team in terms of the resources and the career progression that we're giving to them, and, you know, the signposting and what do you do next, because it's something that everybody kind of feels lost with, because you get immersed in study
Yeah.
and being, you know, a student.
Yeah.
and then you've got to become
The jump.
the professional.
The professional.
Yeah,
The
and
jump
it's like, how
is
do
that
I
jump.
get to that stage? So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amy, do you have?
Yeah, you were talking just then about clients wanting different things. And you've got a really great kind of diagram which breaks down the skill sets.
We like this a lot, didn't we?
we did.
Yeah, we like this
a lot. The different roles that kind of would fit within.
Yeah.
Obviously, candidates for jobs don't need to be good at everything. It's not always possible for everybody to be good at everything.
No.
But are there 1, 2, 3 key skills that your candidates really need to have?
Yes. I think it's really important to have an understanding. If you want to be an all-round interior designer, it's really important to understand how things go together. But also, so it is the ability to make that concept come to life. So I would say whether you're quite a conceptual designer, you still need to show your technical ability regardless, otherwise it can't get built. So what's the point? So that is one key skill set that I think a lot of people, in fact, most junior designer CVs, I have to go back to them and say, please, can you put some more technical work in?
Yeah.
Because they go, well, it looks boring. I don't like it. It's like, well, it's irrelevant. You could just have a separate PDF of your technical examples, if you like, if you don't want it to interrupt the main portfolio. But I think just showing that concept skills, whether it be, telling that story to showing how an element of it would be built or how you'd lay it out in a building is really important. I'd say at all levels, even at senior level, they will always request a drawing pack to go alongside that portfolio for an all-round interior designer. So yeah, sketching or visualising and, how that story's come together, why you've come up with that concept through to technical drawings. Or even if it's just basic drawings, it's really important, I would say.
I know you write an article as well for Interior Designer magazine, don't you? And I was reading one actually, which interests me because I think we're at an age where flexibility in work is now a key part of how
Yes,
people build their
definitely.
careers. And you wrote one on the kind of pros and cons of freelancing against permanent.
Yes.
Do you want to just talk a little bit about that column and kind of explain it a bit more? in terms of
Yes.
the benefits?
The reason why I wrote it was because there's been a huge surge in freelancing because of there is a financial temptation, and also the ability of feeling there's an element of freedom to it, which it does have. There's no doubt about it. But it can stagnate your career in some aspects because you're not going to be exposed necessarily as a freelancer to going to the client presentation, to taking that client brief, to going on site, because they're going to get their main permanent staff members in place. So I guess it's not for every freelancer that's going to happen, but the majority, a freelancer's bought in for a bottleneck part of work, so it's coming in for a specific stage, whether it's technical or they need someone to help on pitches. It's generally one or the two, and sometimes that freelancer will really prove themselves and they'll go on to be a bit more of an all-rounder freelancer, but generally they're there for a short period of a couple of weeks and then on to something else. Or they stay on that just doing visualizing, for example, and that will suit some people. But I do think if you're an all-round interior designer, it's so important to self-evaluate every 6 months and go, am I getting what I need from my career right now? Because as soon as you've gone a couple of years down the line, okay, financially, you've probably done pretty well, but then to try and get back into a permanent salary, it's quite hard. Reality is you probably are going to drop a little bit because salaries haven't, you do get paid a little bit extra as a freelancer. So again, you're then having to make a compromise. So there's a lot of elements to it, I think. And I just felt it was important to put it out there, because it's so easy to get carried on this journey to going, well, I'm earning great money and I can go on holiday and do this and everything else. But I do tend to find I then get the designer coming to me a few years later going,
Got a job.
I really want a mortgage and I want a permanent job, but I want this salary. And it's like 10 grand more than they're used to or something. And I'm like, but you haven't got any finished you haven't got any projects in your portfolio that have seen from concept through to completion.
Yes.
Or you haven't had any experience mentoring younger members of team, or you haven't had an integral part of a business. When you're an employee, you generally have...
You're part of that process.
You're part of that process. And I just felt after a few conversations I'd had with certain people that it's probably worth just checking in every now and then, just seeing if this is what I need.
Would you recommend it though for graduates freelancing?
I think very rarely are graduates given freelance jobs. Often they're given a contract, but they're less seen as a freelancer. They're just given a contract of work to see how they get on, and then often it's led to a permanent role, because financially it's affordable to bring on a graduate as a permanent employee, and also you want to, because you want to invest in them and you want to watch them grow. So it's not common. I get a lot of graduates saying, well, I'm going to set up my own business, and I think there's a slight danger in that. And even for my part of like, I'm so glad I made mistakes being with an employer who was paying my salary, rather than, use your employer to make those mistakes, to build your network, get them to pay for the awards tickets, get them to introduce you to suppliers, get them to introduce you to your future clients. Screw up at a presentation, that isn't your business. Get them to pay for it.
I'm writing all this down.
And then go and set up your business, because it's really hard.
Yeah.
But also I get sometimes they come back to me after a year or two and go, oh, I really want a permanent job. Their portfolio suffered. Not saying all of them, because some people do brilliantly, but you can find that maybe your portfolio might suffer, and also you're then going in as a junior interior designer again. Or companies are going, well, why would you want to join us? You've been working on your own. Like, are you serious about this, or is it just not worked out? Or it's complicated. But I think it's important to make mistakes while someone else is paying you to begin with.
I think that's fair. I think that's good advice to take away.
Did you enjoy writing the book, ultimately? It sounds like you did, but was it actually a good experience?
It's one of the most stressful things I've ever done in my life. I couldn't look at it once I got it. Every single element was difficult. I'm not a natural academic, and so I really wanted to do it, but in the end I locked myself in a hotel room for 3 days, and I wasn't going to leave until I'd done the first draft. And I did do it, because I'm better when I've got a deadline like that. And it took a long process, but every single step there was a curveball, even to the point where we'd got to the printers, and a client had emailed me. It was the Virgin Voyages visual. Virgin haven't approved this, so we had to stop the actual printer of all these thousands of books at 8 o'clock at night, because I thought we had approval, but we hadn't, until we had to then start the machine up again earlier that morning when the visual had been approved. And then when the boxes arrived, I just assumed they would be stored at the printer's warehouse. And when I got a call saying your book's ready, I was like, oh, brilliant, I'll come down. They're like, oh no, we're outside your office. Well, I'm up 2 flights of stairs.
Oh my gosh.
1,000 boxes of books. It physically killed me, like, not just mentally. It nearly ended me. I couldn't even look at the book for a week. I didn't even open a box. I was so exhausted. I was like, why did I do this? So
can we expect book 2?
No, never, ever.
It won't be a sequel.
Sorry.
What would you say is your best piece of advice for anyone starting out in interior design? People
by people. And the great thing about this industry, and this just shows how welcoming even you guys have all been at the Design Academy, like, I cannot believe what a warm feeling it is, but this is like this at every design studio mostly, and every event you go to, because interior design is a friendly environment, and this is why you can build your network so easily. And I would just say to people, don't build a digital network, build a physical one, because that's how you find work. Go to the events, be seen, connect with people. They will get you the jobs. Get best friends with the suppliers, because they know everybody. And if they like you, they're going to tell all of their clients. By doing this, they're marketing you for you. They're doing your free marketing for you. And so I do think there's, I certainly missed during COVID, is meeting people, and
that face-to-face.
Even that sort of Friday night drinks at the pub, you know, there's often certain pubs where designers will go to, and I've often had, new clients by the end of the evening, just by saying, we need a freelancer for Monday. So I'm kind of like nipping back to the office to find them someone for Monday, not a freelancer who's in the office, but calling round. And but I do think there's, a real importance that actually it's an incredibly friendly industry where you need to build up your network. And actually, regardless of portfolio, if you're willing to learn, they'll be willing to teach you.
Yes.
But people buy people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very true.
You mentioned this, Amy, as well. What's the kind of mistakes to avoid? Because I think there's
mistakes, yeah.
like,
Yeah, I think in your book you talk a lot about what you should do.
Yeah.
But there must be some, I mean, you know, obviously not mentioning any names, but there must have been people come to you with things in their portfolios or things that they've done or things they said at interviews that were just a complete no-no.
Fail.
So what, just quickly, a couple of things that we should never ever do if we're looking for work.
Oh God. I had one very confident chap who really did like the look of himself. He thought it was much more important than the detail on his CV. So no word of lie. It was 3/4 of the page was this blown up picture
His face.
of his sort of half torso and face.
I told you not to tell that story.
I'm sorry, Stephen, but they asked. But not only did he put it on the front page, he put it on the next 3 pages. So this man, I mean, I can still visualise him now. I mean, it haunts me. But I mean, I tried to tell him. But so what he did, he just took it off 2 of them and still
for
kept the
goodness
one.
sake.
And I thought, I can't do it. I can't. So that was one. And in fact, I was speaking about this earlier today. Actually, there was I had a job doing healthcare, and it was really important that this client said we do need someone who's got healthcare experience because it is a specific niche, and actually it's an industry that's really growing since COVID. Actually, because there's money actually been putting in it, which is fantastic. But this candidate was so wanting to do healthcare. I said, look, I'm really sorry, but I can't put you forward because they've specifically said they want healthcare experience. But I have sat next to someone who's been doing healthcare for the last 2 years, so I think I kind of do know because I have sat next to them. I was like, well, you wouldn't sit next to a heart surgeon.
No,
I've sat next to them for 2 years, so I'll do the bypass.
I'll give it a go.
So, it was a little bit tricky, but there's always something. But it's, you know, and some people really do hold on to their CVs and their projects, like till the dying moment. I mean, I've seen directors with projects from years back, and you say, you don't need it to be 72 pages long, you know, with your graduate visual, and they cannot let it go. And you say, please, could you shorten it? And they'll come back with 70 pages. And because and I think it's an important part that you have to keep it fresh.
And selective as well.
And selective, but it's hard. I can understand, especially if you put a lot of work into a particular project. But the people viewing it don't know that.
No.
And it might not be one of your best work, but people will still put it in because they can't let it go. And that, I can understand that, but you do need to sometimes.
Lucy, it has been an absolute pleasure
It has.
to have you
It was
here.
lovely to meet you.
And,
Put a face to the name as well.
Oh my gosh, I mean, I had the best day.
Go and buy the book, people. You can get it from your website, is that right? Yeah.
Studio.eu.com.
And people can follow you on Instagram, I think, as well.
Yes.
Also follow us on Instagram at the National Design Academy.
Definitely.
If you want to leave us some comments or email us anything about this, then you can reach us on awkward@nda.ac.uk. We would love to know your thoughts of having Lucy here with us and the insight that she has given us today. And go and buy the book.
Yes.
Is what I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you again,
Thank
Lucy.
you.
Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.